Welcome back. This is the third Sertz tutorial, the tool for designing storage solutions for your board games. My name is Robin, and last time we designed our first tray. So this is what it looks like and kind of where we left off. One thing I probably should have mentioned in the last tutorial is it probably would be worth saving at this point. Probably don't need a lot of instructions on how to do that, but just like you do anything else, you can choose save and save as in order to save a file, and you want to be able to load it later so you can come back to where you left off. You don't want to lose the work that you put into it, obviously. All right, so last time we created our first tray. It's right here, the tray for storing board tiles. We had 4 different size spaces that we put in here, and then we made it about 30 millimeters tall. And good. So now it's time to get some make up some of this space up on top. We have some room to do that. So let's go ahead. I think the next thing we're going to do is we're going to build let's build some trays for, I don't know, miniatures maybe, or yeah, I think. Well, or you know what? I take that back. Why don't we do, let's say there's cards that come with this game. There's a lot of different decks of cards and maybe also miniatures. So what we'll do is we'll create some trays that'll sit on top of this. Now, obviously, one thing we have to think about is we have to make the trays and design them in a way so they actually do set on top of this. And, so keep in mind that, we have these walls here as kind of our structure. We don't want to build a tray that's going to fall inside one of these chambers. That wouldn't be a very good design. So we're going to need a tray that's bigger than this space here and bigger than this space here. I think what we'll do is let's create a set of 3 trays. We're going to have 1, 2, and 3, and we want to set it on top of this. Now, you can't, when you're designing, I guess the intent of the design tool here is that you design a tray at a time. So adding a layer on top of this is really something you're going to do into a new layer. And how do we do that? So what we can do is, I'm going to move this tray out of the way we created from last time. But let's select the entire layer. So we're going to go into layer selection mode, and we're going to click on that. And then I want to go over here and I want to create a new full layer. What that's going to do, I'll go ahead and click on that. Oh, excuse me. I have to select, I should know my own app, right? Select the tray, and then we'll create a new full layer. All right. So what it did is it created a layer in the game box. And notice the dimensions are the same size as the inside of the game box. But let's look at the side view here. Its base is actually up in the air. And that's intentional because we know we only want to have to work within this space, this height space. We only have this much room left because our existing tray already takes up some of that space. Notice how the layer color is green. It matches the green of the wall. That's because the base of this, it happens to be the exact same height as the wall. So you can actually say, oh, well, I recognize this is going to be setting on top of those green. All right. Good. All right. So we've built a layer. This is also a virtual component. It's not anything you're going to build. It's rather something that exists to give us dimensions to work within. All right. Let's go ahead and take our tray. And by the way, let's go ahead and I'm not going to rename this. We're going to leave it called Layer in Game Box because that's really what it is. And we're going to take our tray that we designed last time and just pop it in here. Notice this is much like the trays or the original game box that we were working with. It's just that we have less height to work with because, well, we have less height to work with. I'm going to go ahead, and I think I'd said I wanted to create 3 trays, but now I'm keeping my eye on, let's go ahead and make some space here. I'm keeping my eye on where these walls are. Now, obviously, if I put a tray right here, it would sit in this corner, and it wouldn't really want to sit there. It would probably want to fall into this outdoor section. So I need to do something to make sure that my design makes sense. I think what I want to do is I could create a fairly large tray, and we could use this for cards, or we could create 3. I'm just trying to decide what we want to do here. I think You know what? I think I am going to create this. And let's say I want to create a 70. And this one is going to be for storing cards. Okay. Alright, and the cards that come with my game, if I lay them on their side, I know that 40, remember this is inside dimensions, this doesn't include the base, so it's from the bottom of the base to the top. I know that 40 is enough for my cards, and maybe my cards will sit slightly above this tray too. But let's not worry about that aspect for now. Alright, so I've got my tray, it fits perfectly in here. And if I were to build this tray with a base on it and stick it on top of here, it would sit just fine because remember it's going to be sitting on these walls, and then this middle wall is going to sort of keep it propped up. What I'd like to do is I'd like to add a couple more trays just like this. So I'm going to, with this tray selected, remember we're in tray selection mode, I'm going to click on the Create a Copy button. All right, so look at this, got all kinds of colors going on. Why are the colors, we may create a copy, why are the colors different? Well, let's take a look on the side view. You can actually see the reason is because the heights are different. Even though it's the exact same tray, it's sitting at a different location. So this one's sitting up at this level, and this one's sitting down here. So if I were to drag this tray into the layer, the colors will match because now it's at the same height. So just to explain that. And then let's go ahead and drag this tray up to here. Good. However, this one is for, let's just say, miniatures 1. This is our first miniature tray. And we know that 40 is, none of our miniatures are taller than 40, so that's going to be a good tray. And let's go ahead and finish this off. We'll do another copy of that tray. We'll drag it in there. Oh, we got some space here. I'm going to actually make this tray just a little bit bigger, just to have some extra room. Or, you know, 70 and 80, we could probably make these both 75, huh? Make our miniature tray slightly bigger than our cards tray. All right. Cool. So we have miniatures 1 and we have miniatures 2. Notice that it actually named, did I name that? I think it named it automatically. It recognizes when you have a 1 and a 2. And we have, these trays will fit nicely. So if we were just to build these 3 trays, they would all sit nicely in here without falling in into the board tile spots. And you can see that they're sitting here. And we can also see there's some extra space on top. I'm going to bring your attention to the height indicator tool. So this is something I mentioned in the very first tutorial. We haven't talked about it since, but this is something to help guide you to remember that your box is 120 millimeters tall. You've used 75, and there's still 45 to work with. So you might look at what you have left to store in the box and say, is that going to be enough space to work with? So if you're kind of designing this on the fly, this can be a really useful tool. Also, if you select something like a tray, it'll highlight what space it's taking. So this tray is from 30 to 75. It's 45 tall. Well, that's good to know. So you could actually build 3 more of these trays the same height and stick them on top because you have 45 left. If I click on this tray, you can see it's down here from 0 to 30 and so on. So that's sort of a guide. The other thing is this little blue indicator tells you where your mouse is. So if I put my mouse on the yellow, you can see we're at 0. If I put it on the green, we're at 30. If I put it on the blue, let's see, it's kind of hard to do because of the handlebar, but that's at 75. The orange is actually at 35 because we're 5 up from 30, and so on. So that kind of guide can be helpful to tell where you're at on the diagram. Okay, so all right, so we have 2 miniatures boxes. You know what? With these, I actually don't really want to design the insides of these. I just want to use auto grids. So what I'm going to do is I'll select one of these, and let's leave the force uniform grid on. And then I'm going to just pick a number of spaces inside here. I think an 4x2 would be good, so let's do that. So now we have a tray. You know what? So with uniform grid, it actually brought the tray in a little bit from the edge, and that's not really what I want in this case. So I'm going to undo that change, and I'm going to turn this off, and then I'm going to go ahead and do that again, so that our last chamber is a little bit bigger. That's okay. Our miniatures, we have different sizes of them. And then maybe this second miniatures box maybe we have some bigger ones. And so while we have room for these 8, we want some bigger ones to be stored here. So I'm going to do, let's just do maybe 3 by 2. Okay, so now we have 2 different trays. We've divided their space up for miniatures. If you want to pull one of these trays out, remember you're in tray selection mode, so you can click on one of these and drag the whole tray out. You can put it back in, so you can kind of say, you know, I want to move things around. You can do that. And then finally with our cards tray, pretty simple here. Perhaps we have, we're going to lay our cards sideways, but they're going to be, the short end of the card will be vertically and the long end will be this way. So maybe we need just 3 separate chambers. So I'm going to do the auto grid. I'm going to do 3. And maybe there we go. So now we've got 3 sections for cards. Actually, I'm gonna do a 2 by 3. Maybe we've got 6 different kinds of cards that we want to store. And there we go. So we have 2 different layers. We've stored our miniatures, and we've stored our cards. We still have about 45 millimeters, well, exactly 45 millimeters according to this, left to design. So we still have room in our box to put stuff. So let's, I think we'll stop there, and in the next tutorial we'll add our last and final tray to the storage solution. And then finally we'll get to talk about the output of all of this, what the final design will look like, and so that you can get started actually building this guy. Let's not forget to save. I'm going to go ahead and save this as tutorial 3. And I'll probably make these design files available. So if you want to skip a tutorial and just jump to one of the later ones, you can do that. And I guess until next time, we'll see you then.